Good evening to everybody. I'm definitely talking to the right audience with the mission being for crypto. And Donnie, you just touched on Bitcoin, and it's not really news I want to talk about, but it's more around what we urgently need to do. And what I'm going to focus on is Bitcoin itself. And the reason why I'm focusing on Bitcoin itself is that we need to be prepared, because there's a massive bull run that's going to be starting at the end of this year, and that's going to last for another sort of 12 to 18 months. And when I speak to people out there, generally, they don't really understand it. They don't really understand what this bull market's going to do. And they are not prepared for this bull market. So if you allow me, I'd just like to just go through a few things that I have researched. It's not my numbers, it's numbers that I've taken off various websites that I've put together here, and to show you exactly where we sit with Bitcoin. Okay, so why Bitcoin? The reason why I'm talking about Bitcoin is because Bitcoin represents 64% of the total market cap of all cryptocurrencies, currently at $170 billion. So it's by far the biggest coin out there by market cap, and it represents a massive 64%. Bitcoin has a finite number. So when we talk about a finite number, there can never be more than 21 million Bitcoin, ever. So it's pretty much like beachfront property. And we know that if you want to buy a property in Ballito or on the south coast in KZN, the price will generally go up because there is a finite number of property. So the same applies to Bitcoin. It's got a finite number, it's very scarce, and it's also a de-inflation characteristics. So it means that the price of the value moves up of the coin. So if we just go through the Bitcoin numbers, as I said, the total circulating number that will ever be produced will be 21 million. And the last Bitcoin that ever be produced will be in the year 2140. The current total market circulating quantity is 18.4 million. That is as of today. The total Bitcoin mined every day is 900 currently. Now, nobody or very few people understand that the number of Bitcoin that have been lost, where computers have been thrown away, hard drives have been thrown away, Bitcoin sent to the wrong address, is at an estimated number of 4 million. You heard me right, 4 million. Donnie spoke last week around where somebody bought a pizza for 10,000 Bitcoin. I think that was the number. So in the early years, people didn't really understand the value of Bitcoin, and it wasn't, so people just threw away hard drives, they lost computers, and they didn't really care. But that's the number, 4 million. The other big thing is that institutions are currently aggressively buying Bitcoin, and they're doing it over the counter. They're not doing through the exchanges where we see transactions take place. So it's done undercover, and we're not actually seeing those transactions. But the stats are saying that about a third of large institutional investors own digital assets. Grayscale Trust is by far the biggest institution that's buying cryptocurrencies. And they have bought up 350,000 Bitcoin. And the plan is by next year to have 550,000. That represents 3% of all Bitcoin. And I'm talking about 3% of the 18.4 million. And that is just one institution. Another example is from a website called bitinfocharts.com, which shows you a ranking of the various wallets on the blockchain. And what you can find there is that if you go to the ranking from the biggest to the smallest, that a large institution in the first week of December 2018, where we had a very low price of Bitcoin, went and opened up 75 wallets of 8,000 Bitcoin each. That number represents 800,000 Bitcoin. And that's just another example of another institution. If you go to the same website, there are 104 wallets that hold between 10,000 to 100,000 Bitcoin, which is 2.4 million Bitcoin. The Winklevoss twins own 100,000 Bitcoin. So why am I telling you this? Well, a very conservative number that institutions are currently holding would be around 20% or 3.7 million Bitcoin. Now they've taken that Bitcoin from us, the public, and they've done it very cleverly. They have the large institutions in the States especially own all the media houses, and they've created fear in the public that have gone and sold their Bitcoin to these institutions. So if, in summary, the total circulating supply is currently at 18.4 million. We have lost 4 million. Institutions have taken 3.7 million. So the current balance in circulation is 10.7 million. It is not the 18 million or the 21 million that we think of it. It's actually almost half of that. Now, if we work it out per person in the world, we've currently got 7.8 billion people on Earth. And if you divide that with, with the Bitcoin, it represents 0.0013 Bitcoin per person, or at current prices, $12 per person. Now, we can clearly see that Bitcoin is a very scarce commodity. Okay, so the crypto trading experts have looked at a stock flow model where they have gone back in history to the last two halvings. We had a halving in 2012, we had another halving in 2016. And as you know, we had another halving 2 months ago. And what they have done is they've looked at history and they've looked at where they had peaks in price after that. And a clear example can be seen in 2016, where we had a Bitcoin halving in July of 2016. And we can all remember at the end of 2017, December, we hit a massive peak in price. So the same sort of analogy has been applied based on our halving that we had 2 months ago, where the expectation of a new price peak would be the end of next year or going into 2022. And that price forecast is going to be at around about $90,000 per Bitcoin minimum. So we have very little time to prepare ourselves to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible, because we all know another thing is that the institutions want that Bitcoin. So my request is that you go out there and put a plan together on, in the next few months, how you're going to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible to prepare yourself for the massive bull run that we see up there.